I am sure that you recognize Austin. Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport. Okay, clearly I need some more coffee. We are in X-Plane 12, trying an airplane that just got updated for X-Plane 12 2. I'm sure you see the 4 big engines on that Airbus A340. Sitting at gate Echo 28 right now at Austin. I don't think I remember if Virgin actually goes here or not, but it's going to be our plane today and our airport. And hello, I'm Dave. I do the Spy Flight over on Twitch, and X-Plane 12 is now in early release. More and more airplanes are starting to roll out and be updated and ready to fly. The A340-600 from ToLiss was recently updated, so we're going to go ahead and give this airplane a quick shot. Today's flight today is going to be Atlanta to Boston. We are flying the X-Plane 12 Early Access System. Whatever the heck that is. Anyhow, it's the A340-600. I'm using SimBrief, SimToolkit Pro. I'm also using Navigraph charts and data. Also, for this flight, all of the airports you'll see are default, so it's all pretty much default scenery for today's flight. The flight today is taking off from Atlanta's Flight 26 left, doing the Plummer departure, Roebuck 3 going into Boston's 22 left, cruise altitude, flight level 390. It's 2 hour and 25 minute flight, so one of the things that we're going to do is stop as soon as we get to top of climb and then restart the video, so it's not the entire flight. It's 821 miles. If you've never done this with me before, a couple of things to remember. X-Plane 12 is still in early access. That means that there is still a bug or two in the system. I'm still doing some tweaking on my controllers right now. In fact, this is the second attempt that I had on this video because my throttles were really messed up. I am using current weather, real current time. We're also using the real world active runways for both Boston and Atlanta, which means because this is a recorded video, there is a chance that if you're going to fly along with me, your runways might be different because the weather might be different. And I do suggest, if you've got the time, hit pause on the YouTube video, load up your flight simulator, put the airplane at Atlanta and fly along with me. I'll be doing button push for button push so that if you're trying to learn this airplane, this complete flight video might serve as a really good cold and dark video. The cool part about YouTube is you can pause the video and catch up. You can also roll the video back a little bit if I did something too fast and watch it again as you're flying along. I also like to suggest that once you do a video like this with me, a couple days later, do your own hometown flight video. It just helps you remember all the little button pushes. It might help a bit. And then be sure and join us on the Spy Flights over on Twitch. One thing I do like to say, particularly in a situation like this where we are in early release, airplanes are just being released, the buttons and workflow that I'm doing may not be exactly right. My videos here on YouTube are never about the right way versus the wrong way. It's really just what works for me, okay? And that's the whole goal, so that you can get your airplane back from the gate, up in the air, on the ground, and be ready to go. So that's the whole goal today. Shall we jump in and start doing airplane things? So our route of flight today, I've already gone and planned it all out. And this is our route of flight today. It says that I'm 3 hours and 17 minutes late because I was having some trouble with my controllers. But our route of flight's going to take us over Virginia, over Washington, D.C., and New York City, and into Boston Logan. Weather along the way looks like it's going to be fairly easy going and not so crazy. So that's kind of a nice thing. As far as our charts for today's flight, I am using Navigraph charts, so basically you'll see that we are right over here in Concourse E. I always do like to use the ground charts and turn on airplane tracking. That really helps me, especially if I'm on VATSIM, keep track of where it is that I'm supposed to be at the airport. We all know Atlanta, we fly here all the time, but when you're in the middle of a VATSIM event, you're busy. If you've got this thing just off to another monitor so that you can always know where you're supposed to be on the airport, it does help. Plumber 3 departure, simple departure to the west, and then we make a U-turn, turn back around, and head up to Plumber. You've probably done Roebuck. We're going to go over here onto the north side of the airport, set up for a south approach onto runway 22 left. Then coming on in after 22 left, we'll probably get off at Papa, have to taxi back on Alpha because I believe Virgin parks down here in the Echo Gates. So we're going to go down to the Echo Gates for parking. And that's about it. That's what I got for you for the flight. Couple things that I've had to do. I have 4 throttle levers set up over in my Thrustmaster throttles. So I've got 4 of these, and calibrating them all together has been a bit of a problem. So all of my throttles are now all together on throttle number 1. I just was not able to get the calibration working, so that's been a thing. I've also got a couple of buttons that I've got remote access to on the controllers. One is this ground handling. So one of the things is this is a nice little window that you can find here on the menu at flight, and it's all the way at the bottom, hide the ground handling window. I have that one actually set up on a button. That way we can go and get the jetway and then make it disappear. And as you can see, we are getting ourselves a jetway. So that's nice. All the default airports seem to have a nice working jetway. So we've got our jetway. The other thing that I have set up here is the ISCS, also known as the giant green box for ToLiss. And that way I can come over here, go to ground services, and I'm going to go ahead and open cargo doors, and I'm going to open aft cargo and bulk cargo. So this has been sitting here for a while, so that's why it is that my doors have been not working so good. That's why my doors had already closed. Let's see, I've got external power A and B on. I've also got my chocks in place. And the jetway appears to be... Okay, well, we're done with the jetway bell. Glad we were able to fix that. Views, this is quick view number 8 for me, and you can see that we've got a nice view there of the jetway and the door. We've got a view of the left wing and the right wing, and here's our main cockpit view. And it's time to start going and do airplane stuff. Now, this airplane does have a really nice EFB, and so we also have a weight and balance EFB now. We have a takeoff performance that's coming soon and landing soon, but you can put Avatab in there. You can also go and use this as a nice EFB. So they're starting to build up a good electronic flight bag, which is cool too. Beyond that, it's time to start turning on flipping buttons. So let's go ahead and start. This is an Airbus A340. And like most Airbuses, we start with the battery buttons. Battery 1, battery 2, APU battery. We're going to pop that one on too. We do have external A and external B. We're going to pop those on. Keep coming down. The day I'm recording this is the 12th, and so that is an even day, so I'm going to use nav and logo light system number 2. Sliding down here along the bottom of the upper panel, I'm going to do no smoking to on. We're going to go and we'll be fueling the airplane. So no smoking for fueling. Apparently, you know, cigarettes and gasoline, that was a problem or something like that. Let's go ahead, and the self-test is over on the screens in front of us. So we can zoom back just a little bit and go off to the side here. And here is the primary flight display level on the monitor. We'll also do the navigation display. Remember, it's an Airbus, so the navigation display is actually a knob that's split into 2. One's for the data, one's for the map. So we got those in there. While we're doing this, let's come on down here. And you can see we've got the 2 little ECAM displays. So I'm going to turn those up. I'm turning these up to about 1 o'clock on the knob, and you can see everything's looking good on that knob too. Come on down here. There is also integrated lighting, and I do like to make sure that the integrated lighting is turned up to at least around 1 o'clock or so. That's basically the backlighting on all of the instruments. Just makes it a little bit easier to see. You can also adjust backlighting up here, and everything's coming together and looking pretty good. Navigation data, Navigraph has gone and updated itself so we can get current nav data in. We've got our nav data set up there, so that's good. Let's go to the init page. And this is a short flight plan, and yes, you can download flight plan information directly from flight planners, SimBrief. But this is a really short flight plan, and I don't like to download the flight plans every time, just so that I can remember how to plug data into a flight management computer and a McDo. Especially if you get a reroute in flight on VATSIM, this makes your life a little bit easier. So we are at KATL, Hotlanta International Airport, going to KBOS, Baston Logan, and we're going to pop that in there. And now that we got that, let's come all the way up here, and we're going to go and do the IRSs, the ADIR systems. So IR number 1, turn it on. We'll look and see, does the default light show up and the on battery light show up? And then they should go out. Here's IR number 2, and the same two things happen. Wait for the lights to go out, add number 3. On battery, fault, light goes out, and that's the good news. While we're up here, we'll slide on over to the middle, hit the test button on the fire stuff. And we got fire lights going on, and all of that looks good too. Coming down here, we can also turn on, this is usually the point in the startup where I just hit the crew supply of oxygen. And that way that takes care of that, and that's good news. Okay, we're good to go here. So we are flying, today we are flying Virgin Atlantic. They are VS. So VS, VIR is the call sign, VS is the flight number. And we're flying 441. Now then, passenger numbers. This airplane wants you to put the PAX number in. We actually haven't loaded the airplane yet, and you do that with the giant green box. So come on over here. Ground services are good, but loading information is what we're going to pop in here right now. And according to my flight plan, the flight plan says we're going to have 314 people aboard. So you can go and use the slider, or you can go over here and wipe this out and do 314 and enter. So there's 314 passengers. Let's see, cargo should be 2,050, I believe, if I did it right. 2,050 kgs in the back, 2,050 in the back, and 2,050 in the front, if I did the math right. I usually don't get that right. That gives us a zero fuel weight of 221.0. The flight plan said that we were supposed to have 217, so we're a little heavy right now. So that's supposed to be 217. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to, how about 1850? And, 2050. Maybe I didn't do this right. Hang on. Maybe I'm an idiot. Hang on. Very probably 2050. I had an extra one. Nope. I didn't have that. I had that right. So we're still at 221. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to drop my cargo down to 1950. And I'm going to drop this down to 1950. And you can sit here and you can rabbit hole this number all the way down. You can really do that. I'm not going to rabbit hole anymore. That's enough rabbit holing. But you can go and get this. Obviously, we're just going to say a few more passengers showed up at the last minute. How's that sound? Okay. The only other thing that I'll do is our center of gravity is at 24.3. I'm going to slowly move the passengers forward in the airplane till it's about 20.0. So we'll put a few people up further up front on that. Okay. The other thing that we'll do is our fuel, which is supposed to be 27,393. So we'll wipe this out. 27393. There's our fuel for the flight. Now then, let's go ahead and apply the load settings and quick refuel, and we're done with passengers, okay? And baggage and everything. A little bit heavier, but not too much heavier. We're still within, you know, the center of gravity and weight envelopes, so life is good in this airplane. I am going to remember the passenger number, 314, because this wanted to know that, 314. 314. Passengers. Cost index for today's flight is a whopping 173. So a little bigger cost index, and our flight is flight level 390. So 39,000 feet. And all of this is good. Now, have we done the init ref? Yes, we did. Oh, no, I didn't do it. So init ref, align on ref, and confirm. There is our alignment. So alignment is good. We can also go and get wind information. So we're going to request our winds for here in Atlanta. So there's our wind request. And I guess the star doesn't go away. There's the wind request. Next phase. I think it takes a while for winds to show up here. So we're not going to worry about that for the moment. But all of this is looking good. Passengers are coming aboard. But now is a great opportunity to go and start up the old APU. And master switch is going on. So I'll usually come down here and make sure it switches to APU. It does. And make sure that the system comes on. And I usually wait for the flap open indicator. You know, make sure that, you know, some bird didn't go and do something back there and the flap won't open. And the flap did open. So we can come over here and we can start up the APU. Whoops. There we go. Starting up the APU. Now let's go and do the flight plan. So F plan. We are at Atlanta International Airport. Our departure for today's flight is going to be 26 left. So 26 left is our departure. We are departing on the Plumber 3 departure. So we're going to grab Plumber 3. There's Plumber 3. And we're ending at Berg. So Berg. And insert. There we go. Now we're going to go down a little bit here in the flight plan. And then after Berg, I'm going to go and hit Berg. Now I think it's the, is it the discontinuity? Next waypoint. No, it's not that one. Let's do Berg. Hit Berg. Airways. This is what we want because we have airways in this flight plan. So airways, we're going to click that. And our next airway after Berg is the Q22. So Q22 airway, put that in there, and we exit the Q22 at RBV. RBV. Come on, V. There we go. After RBV, we are going to be on the Q419. 419. And that's going to exit us at JFK VOR. JFK. So we exit that airway right over Kennedy and insert that into the flight plan. Now let's go and do departure Boston arrival. We know that on Boston, we are going to be arriving on runway 22 left. So 22 left, we're doing the Roebuck arrival, Roebuck 3. Via Noli, and then via Kennedy. All that information I got off charts, and I got that information off of my, off the charts. I got it off of the flight plan, and that's where all that information came from. Hit flight plan again, that puts us to the top. MPAS, Zelen, Smog, all of those look really good. So this is all the Plumber 3 arrival. So let's zoom in a little bit here. So you can all see Plumber 3. And then it should, after Berg, it should switch us to the Q22 airway. And those are all of our waypoints on Q22. Eventually it's going to shift us over to that other airway, which is the Q419. And that's going to take us to Kennedy. And then we're going to be on the Roebuck 3 arrival. We're going to have one route discontinuity. And that's going to be manual. and it's going to say manual right there. There's the discontinuity. We just leave that there, and then we would go direct to Nolan after that. So all of that looks really pretty good. So flight plan looks good, 925 total air miles. And let's go to the performance page now. Now, this is something that's new for me, okay? I didn't know a lot about this. So in the past, I would go and I would do the giant green box for takeoff data. Let's go ahead and hit the takeoff data button and see what happens. Okay, so takeoff data, and we're going to request our takeoff data. Oh, it's not allowed. It was allowed before. Well, let's do takeoff data again. And insert the uplink. Not allowed. Okay, maybe it's because, so let's go back to performance. Maybe it's because I still have to do the giant green box. So let's do the giant green box. So it already knows from our active flight plan that we are going to be on runway 26 left. This big old long airplane, you want to use flaps 3. That's supposedly to help you prevent tail strikes on departure. And so that gives us a center of gravity and a trim setting and a bunch of numbers here. So we got all those numbers. Let's go down here, and I'll usually come over here and slide off to the side. Get the giant green box again. Slide it off to the side so I can just put these numbers right in here. There we go. We'll go in a little tighter. Maybe move this around a bit because there's a little bit of reflection here. There's reflection. Let's try it over on the other side. Oh, much better. It's easier to see. Okay, GPS primary is good, so everything is nicely aligned. And let's go and do this again. So it's going to be flaps 3. Flaps 3, trim's going to be up 4.2. So flaps 3 and trim is going to be up 4.2. By the way, this airplane sets your trim for you when you put the trim in. We're going to flex to 66 degrees. So hit F and 66. And V1 is 142. Rotate it 147. And V2 is 154. 154. Transitions 18,000 feet. We are done. Now then, I guess we uplink our takeoff data or something. And temperature, QNH. So let's go and check that and see if this is current. And a fast way to do that is to come over here to METAR TAF. Let's go and refresh it. And so the winds right now are 310 at 7. It's 26 degrees. Is that what it says here? It says 25 degrees. The altimeter, it says, is 2997. It's set to QNH. So winds, I guess we can put in uplink data. So winds are 310 at 7. This is all new for me. I've never done this before. Okay, so that's good. Takeoff limit, I don't see anything else. So I guess takeoff data request based on this. Not allowed. Okay, so obviously these things aren't working. Takeoff data. Let's look at page 2. Oh my gosh, there's a whole lot of other stuff here. Well, there are clearly some new things in this, and I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I think that there's some new things for us to play with here. Let's go ahead and 3. All of this is based on this data, and all of that looks good. So I think we're ready to go. So all of that is done. Let's see here. Do we have an APU? We do. So let's go down here, and we're going to do the APU bleed is now on. So APU bleed can go on. That's good news. Let's see. Top of climb. So if we're on VATSIM right now and we had ATC, their clearance, they would say climb via the SID, and that's it. They expect you to go to this chart and look at this chart and look for something like this, the top altitude, 10,000 feet. That is our cleared altitude. And so we're going to put in 10,000 feet. There we go, 10,000 feet, so that's good. Did we set the altimeters? Nope, we haven't. It's 2997 here in Atlanta. So 2997. And we'll come over here. And 2997. Come on down here. And 2997. Okay, we're good to go. And all of this is done. Usually I will come over to the other and I will do the progress page over here. And I think we're ready to start closing doors. So outside the airplane, if we go and look, you can see that my cargo doors are open. So cargo doors are open, and so is the passenger door. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to go to ground services, and we're going to close, or I'm just going to go to auto, and that should just close all my doors for me. Let's also go to auto over here, and that's going to close the passenger door. So all of those are good. And if you look, you can see there goes our big cargo doors closing. And the latches are nicely modeled too. And if we go into the cabin, you can see the main door is closed. So with that, let's go up here. I'm going to disconnect ground power. So come on up here. We do have the APU up and running. Ground power is off. The way I knew the APU was plugged in is because the light's out. It's an Airbus, so if the light's out, it's good, right? Let's turn off the lights here. This is a little bit early to do fuel pumps, but when I shift my ground power, this is when I do fuel pumps because I'm notoriously bad about remembering to do fuel pumps. We're going to also go ahead and do seat belts. We're also going to arm the emergency exit lights. And we are getting ready for pushback here. Let's see, squawk code for today's flight. Even though we're not on VATSIM, I always try to remember to do all of my squawkage. So if we were on VATSIM, we would be squawking mode Charlie. And yes, that is a special word that we just came up with, squawkage. Yeah, there you go. Okay, our flight plan is loaded. Everything's looking good. Let's go outside the airplane. We still have the jetway in place. So let's go and do that jetway button. Toggle the jetway. And there goes our jetway. So jetway is gone. Now then, we'll look down here. Our parking brakes are still on. And through the giant green box, we have a pushback truck. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect ground power. Parking brakes are on, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the chocks. And we're going to go and push the airplane back just, I think this is 100 meters. So let's do start pushback with the nose wheel. And then if we go outside, we'll see a pushback truck is going to drive up. And there is a nice pushback truck. It will latch in, and it looks like they did a really neat job of modeling it. And now at this point, they want us to release the parking brake. So that looks good. Parking brake is released. And let's see if it pushes us back 100 meters. We've already pulled the chock. Look at that. We're pushing back. How about that? The reason I'm using this one for the first time like this is because better pushback is something we've used for a very long time in X-Plane. Better pushback isn't ready to go with X-Plane 12, so okay, you know what? We'll just, I'm starting to use more of the pushback trucks that come with airplanes. And the one thing that I screwed up here is I should have done the beacon before we move the airplane around. So beacon needs to go on. And we're ready to start engines. So let's go ahead and we're going to get the starter. And let's go ahead and do ignition start. Look over here. Do we have pneumatic pressure? That's this PSI at the bottom. We do. So we can start engine number 2. And engine number 2 should be starting. And it says my thrust lever is not at idle. I've been having a problem with my thrust levers here. So, but it will still start me, but my thrust levers, it's just not working out so good. Okay, we're over 20% on engine number 2. That means we can start engine number 1. So my thrust lever is at idle. And by the way, I've ended up having to go and take all of my thrust levers. And yeah, there it is right there. I've had to put them all together. That's reverse, isn't it? Oh. Is that not reverse? I may not have reversers. Fuel, no weight, data, CG. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do my init page B. So init and page B. And we'll get this off of this. So init page B. Loading info. We are 220.8. 220.8. Center of gravity is 20.1. So 20.1. Okay, there we go. Happy now? And I think we're ready. We're done with our pushback. So let's go and do parking brakes. And I think once you do that, the tug disconnects and goes away. Yep, there it goes. Tug's gone. Let's go ahead and start 2 more engines. I may have a problem because my thrust lever is all the way here. I don't know that I've got a reverse. So starting engine number 4, number 3. I'm still figuring that out. The settings are a little bit different. Okay, there's 20% on N2, so we can start engine number 4. Not having thrust reverse is going to be a problem, perhaps, when it's landing time. Okay, so with those all the way down there like that, I'm going to wait till we start the engines and go ahead and take a look. So engines are good. Cabin sounds have always been kind of okay on this airplane. Well, I thought I'd actually solved a few problems here, but I guess I didn't. So this is now all the way at 0. See, it's setting our trim setting. Remember I was telling you it would set the trim automatically? So trim's being set. We've got engine number 3 ready to go. Engine number 4 is available. So our engines are available. Starter back to normal. Let's go up here, and we are done with the APU bleed. We are done with the APU. Let's look down here. Let's get feet on the rudder pedals and elevators. Trim is set. And rudders. So everything's looking good there. Now then, let's go ahead and see what I'm going to do. So there's our throttle. Throttles are all the way down at 0. What am I going to do for reversers here? So if we look over here, this throttle is set to 0. This shows me in the reverse zone. This does not look right. So that doesn't look right. Let's do beta reverse reverse and FADEC. I know that this is for prop liners, but let's see what this does. Okay, that's not right either. Now I've gone and taken all of my reversers. Okay, FADEC, helo, normal throttle, there's reverse. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing, so landing could be a problem, but let's go ahead and fly anyway, because why not, right? Clearly we're gonna have to figure that out. That can be my Googling during cruise today. Because, you know, what else would you do during cruise except Google, right? Okay, it's going to be a left turn, Fox 5 to Echo. So here we are at the Echo. We're going to make a turn out here, turn north, Fox 5, go past Foxtrot to the Echo taxiway, and Echo to runway 26 left. I think we're ready to go. Look down here, parking brakes are off, tow brakes are on. Look up here, and we're going to do nose light on, all call, let the cabin crew know we're going to be rolling the airplane around. Parking brakes are off, and this airplane should start to roll a little bit. And we'll look over here, and the taxi has begun with our very, very big, long airplane. I believe this is the longest airplane that Airbus has done. Now, as you're doing one of these tight, you know, real tight turns, release the nose wheel gently. I've found is a good thing to do. I'm going to bring my map in just a little bit here. Haven't done speed brakes and spoilers or anything like that yet. Okay, 5 November, that's correct. And so they're going to tell us to go out. The first taxiway is Foxtrot. That says Foxtrot. We're going to go out here and get on Echo. All right, ground speed is 15 knots. Big, long airplane like this, I want to be about 10 knots. And the way that I knew that that speed was, is ground speed is right there in the middle of the map display. So there's your speedometer, basically, like in your car. Super long airplane, so I'm going out over the taxi line a bit and then doing a tight turn back in, so I don't clip the taxiway edge. Okay, flaps 3 for takeoff. There goes flaps. It's always fun to go and look at the flaps going out. Okay, so that's looking good. Speed brakes. Speed brake test. Always good to make sure your speed brakes work. And then once you get that done, you can arm speed brakes for takeoff. Let's see. Auto brakes to take off. And look down here. Takeoff config button. Press. Look up here. ECAM is green. So we are ready to go. I have not turned on predictive wind shear yet. This airplane has predictive wind shear. Predictive wind shear is on, and now the ECAM is nice and green and ready to go. So as you approach takeoff, if you've got one of those gaming chairs or chairs at your computer that tilts back and you have rudder pedals, now is a very good time to make sure that your chair does not tilt back. Because when you start pressing your rudder pedals, you'll find yourself leaning uncomfortably backwards. And that's not good. Okay, everything looks good here. I think I know what's going on with the reversers. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick stop, and it's rabbit hole time. Let's just go and see. Parking brakes on. Giant green box. And let's go over here to joystick actions. Primary joystick deadband, enable second stick. Second stick, tiller assisted, pedal brakes assigned, smart brakes. F1, F2, smart lever, reverse on same axis. And there it is. There we go. Now we should be at idle. And we should be able to go, and so it says the idle detent is at 24. And then there's CL detents and MCT detents. So what we can do here is let's go and have a look at these. So my idle detent, I think I'm going to go back down to reverse and FADEX. That didn't clear any of that out. Normal throttle. Reverse and FADEX. Okay, let's go to normal. Look at all this junk. Okay, get rid of all of this. Let's get rid of all these things here. Okay, so that's good. Now let's go to reverse and FADEC. Okay, 25, 50, and 75. 25. So 25, 50, 76 is that dead band. So that should be a 76 there. So I'm going to make that 76. 76. So there we go, 76 and full. So 25, 50, and 76 is what we need to put in here. So apply that and go done. So 25, 50, and 76. Okay, save those settings. What could possibly go wrong? Now we're going to come down here, and now we might need a little throttle forward. I think we fixed it. Now, I still have a calibration problem with all 4 of my levers, so I'm still just going to use everything on one lever for this one. And that is much better. Hey, we solved the problem. Now, if we were on VATSIM at the moment, I would say that now is not the best time to go and solve problems like this. But in a flight like this with, you know, some goofy guy on YouTube, now is the perfect time for you to go and do the same thing that I did if you're having a problem. And that feels much better throttle-wise. That is a much happier throttle. Okay, we are squawking mode Charlie on all taxiways. Flaps are set. Speed brakes are armed. Auto brakes are armed. The ECAM checklist is green. I think we're ready to go. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the payware people who have done Atlanta in the past have done with this airplane. I think this is a big, long airplane, so we're going to take a little extra taxi room here and go out this way. Ground speed's about 15 knots. Let's get it back down to about 10 for these 90-degree turns. 13's probably okay. Look around there. There's our hold short line. So our wings are going to be getting pretty close to those trees over there. And let's go outside and see, how did our taxiing go? Well, we're relatively good for a big airplane. I say it's flying time. Tower just cleared us to go, so strobes on. Add a little bit of power. Let's get ready to go and do flying. Boston, here we come. Add a little more power on the way out. These are very, very red engines. Again, on an airplane this long, one of the things I'll do is go over the center line and do the tight turn around, but it does take a little bit of finesse, perhaps that's the word. Okay, so over the line and now real tight, so we have all the runway we need. See if I did a good job. And bring it around. Might need a little more throttle. Well, that's relatively lined up. Not bad. Clear for takeoff. Landing lights. Landing lights are on. Okay, throttle's going up a little bit, about halfway. And you look down and say, are all our throttles stable? They are. Manual flex. SRS is set. Runway is set. Auto thrust is blue. I'm reading all of these things up here if you wonder what all those things are. Steering with rudder pedals now. 100 knots. This airplane will give you a V1 call out. At least it did last time.
V1.
Checked. Rotate. Up, up, and away. Gear up. Okay, not bad. Follow those flight directors. Nose down just a touch. There's lever climb. Thrust climb. Flaps 2. And flight directors start doing our turn to the right. So nice gentle turn, lower the nose a little bit more. Keeping my flight directors centered up as best I can. And start rolling out. Nose down a little more. And that looks pretty good. How about AP1? And we are direct to MPAS. Important safety tip for flying along here in VATSIM when you're taking off from Atlanta. Control tower is basically going to say, clear for takeoff, runway 26, RNAV MPAS, or RNAV football, or something like that. They want to hear you say back this RNAV MPAS. They want to hear that because that way you know that that's your first checkpoint. And slats. And there goes our leading edge slats. And they're not doing that to be, you know, arbitrary either. They're doing that because that's what's going on in the real world. And looking good, climbing speeds going up to 250. There's MPAS. We'll start some turns. We are done with speed brakes. And everything's looking good there. So seatbelts and no smoking are on. Everything else is good. I'm going to look at wheels. Did we have hot brakes coming out? Well, it's 180. Got 180 degree brakes over there, so hopefully that's not too hot going out. But we did use the brakes, and it's an Airbus, so you know what that means. Passing 7,000 feet. No lights are blinking at us. No alarms are sounding. So that's a really pretty good indicator that we're in good shape. See, real world, one pilot is going to have terrain radar on. The other pilot would have weather radar on. So there's our terrain radar going out. And you hear the engine spooling down a little bit. There's 10,000 feet. Do we have a route? No, so it's 250 knots at Zelen. That's about it. So we are going to get ATC saying climb and maintain 17,000. So 17,000 and managed. Push it in. And we're up above the clouds. And out we go. There's 10,000 feet. So landing lights can go off. Landing lights are off. Nose lights can go off. Let's do another all call. Cabin crew, letting them know sterile cockpit is done at some airlines and others not, but also 10,000 feet. You probably noticed when you're a passenger, cabin crew always picks up the mic and says, hey, seatbelt sign's still on, you can't leave. No other route constraints going out, so I'm going to go from constraints to airports. 40 miles. In case we lose an engine, gotta land. Want to go ahead and have a quick look in here. Where can we land if we have to put the airplane down immediately, if not sooner? And everything's looking good there. Let's see, they are also working on CPDLC stuff here. So what we can do is brighten this up. And let's see if stuff starts to show up in the CPDLC monitor. The button works. I don't see anything in here yet. But that's going to be kind of a huge deal, especially as we go forward on VATSIM, especially if you're flying in Europe. And coming up on smog. So smog is over here, then it's Dillon and Plummer, and out we go. And there's a couple of, there's the transition, the Berg transition. But we are on our way out. Usually I'll stop doing the flight tracking on Navigraph. If I really want to see some flight tracking, I generally like to go over to SimToolkit Pro, because this will also put a little bit of radar in if there's some significant weather ahead. This is also kind of a nice map for looking around to see what's up ahead. So going over Anderson and Greenville, South Carolina, there's Charlotte, North Carolina. So you can kind of zoom in a bit here. We're going to be passing Athens, Georgia, not Greece. So I'm guessing it's going to be Georgia Peaches as opposed to Euros and Uzu. And there's 17,000 feet. ATC says climb and maintain, flight level 390. Make it managed, and we'll continue up to our final cruise. Looking down here, climb is looking good. Looking over at the wind page now. So there's climb winds. Next phase, look at that. There's cruise winds. Let's look at the next phase after that. No descent winds. So we'll see what happens when that comes in. But this is something new for me with the ToLiss airplane, is being able to get winds. Okay, so that's good. I usually like to leave this one on performance, and then the other one I will leave on progress. Probably noticing that the airplane's jittery. I think that what that is the simulator in the airplane trying to simulate a little turbulence, and there's some fine tuning that's needed. That's why the airplane, you know, it looks like it's had a little too much coffee every now and then, and that's probably something that they're working on right now. Passing 20,000 feet, and I should have done altimeters at 18,000, so pull it out for standard. And if you wait too long, I think the airplane will yell at you, because these two altimeters are supposed to match. I think you've got like 30 seconds or so. Let's see if these altimeters yell at us. It should say something like altimeter mismatch or something like that. I know it happens like that in the A320. In the Phoenix A320 over in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Watch, it's going to say, yeah, well, I'm not going to do it. Maybe it needs to be more. It was 2997, 2992. Maybe it needs to be more than... Okay, it's not going to yell at me. Of course it isn't. So pull that out for standard, and then push that in for standard. Gee, the one time that I thought the airplane was going to yell at me, it didn't. Passing 23,000 feet, everything looks good here. No lights are flashing at us up there, so there's nothing we got to worry about there. Landing elevation is already set to Boston for us. This airplane is super duper smart. Seat belts are remaining on. No smoking is on. Passing 24. So for a flight like this, generally when I'm passing 25,000 feet, unless there's turbulence, this is when I usually do seatbelts off or auto. This airplane has an auto selection, so I'm going to go to auto. And if we come back and look in the cabin, so you can see that the seatbelt sign has now gone off. And you can also see there's a little bit, they're showing you the nose wheel on the in-cabin monitors. So we have a little bit of in-flight entertainment. If we come all the way to the back of the airplane, you can see it's in-seat monitors here. So let's see, how's that? Yeah, that's pretty close. And we look up here, seatbelts are off. And our in-flight entertainment today is the nose wheel cam, which I think is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Passing 26,000 feet. So just passing Athens, Georgia. In fact, I bet that's Athens right down there. And you can see this is why I like to keep this map open. So one thing that I like to do with Flight Sim is be a little touristy. So, okay. Let's see, Athens, Georgia. If I remember correctly, that is the B-52's hometown. Yep, formed in Athens, Georgia in 1976. So somewhere down there, there could be a rock lobster hanging out. Just saying. 28,000 feet, everything's looking good here. Our speed's good. We could expedite and climb faster. I don't think we need to expedite right now. We're doing pretty good. We're already climbing at 2,800 feet per minute. So no expeditions are needed, which is a totally improper use of the word. If English isn't your first language, I'm being bratty with the words, which I've been known to do. The outside models that I've noticed in XP12 are really, really good. They look awesome. Inside models aren't so bad. So it depends on the airplane. This airplane does come with an espresso machine. So we are very, very trendy when it comes to our coffee machines here. It's got a pretty nice first class section. I don't think there's anything in the lavatories. So we can kind of go back. I think that this is sort of like, so that's super duper first class. I think that this is the same kind, maybe this is more of a business class with more espresso machines. And still in super duper biz class or something like that. But then the seats are going to get smaller and they start packing them in a little closer. So now it's we're back in, I believe this would be like economy plus. And we keep going back. One of the things that's interesting about this airplane, so there's a galley all the way in the back, but we're back behind the wing. And if you come over here, there's this arch here. So we've only got 2 seats and an arch. So imagine you're in this seat over here and you're up against this wall. And it says no trolley parking. But you can go down the stairs and there's additional bathrooms down here. So additional lavatories. And then a door, and I think that door opens into the landing gear. So more bathrooms and a Wi-Fi hotspot down here. So there is a cabin to explore on this airplane too. And of course it's X-plane, so that means you can get out of the cabin. You can set very nice wing views. It's a little harder to do that sort of thing with more and more airplanes over in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You know, and I understand why the developers are limiting us to just being in the cockpit. They're trying to save FPS and resources. It's also Flight Simulator, and come on, we want to see the wings, want to see flaps and stuff like that. I know we're flight simulators, we're airplane nerds. Developers need to remember that. Okay, this is looking good. 15 miles from top of climb. So generally the plan that I do with the YouTube videos like this is when we get to top of climb, I usually hit pause on the YouTube video and we keep flying. So if you're flying along with me, you keep flying too. And then when this thing switches over and it shows top of descent, so right now this is showing 12 miles to top of climb. Eventually it's going to show us distance to top of descent. When you get to 100 miles within top of descent, that's when you're going to go and turn turn the video back on, unpause the video on YouTube, and that's when I'm going to pick it up. And that's when we'll do our descent preparations. We'll look at the weather in Boston. We'll see what might have changed. This is a 2-hour flight, so one of the things that might have changed is the arrival runways. And generally, if you want to look at those sorts of things while we're in cruise, I usually do that at FlightAware. You could also use Flight Radar 24. Go to FlightAware and KBOS. And so we'll look at Boston and see what we got. And all you really have to do is look at the map, and you can see very, very clearly Boston, they're landing and taking off on the 22s. Very clear. I mean, those are the runways that they're using. So let's see. Do we have any VIRs to confirm the airport, the gates? DAL, United, Japan Airlines, probably not. My guess is that all of the Virgin flights are probably out over the water right now. So this is how you figure out gates. So at least it's how I do that. So no VIRs there. There's some Air France. And could be they pulled out. Maybe they're not flying into Boston right now. I mean, ever since Boston Legal, stopped. Don't see anything. So there's other places that I'll look, but I don't see anything right now. But it's always nice to have an idea of some gates, especially if you're going to be in a big VATSIM event, because once you land and you switch over to ground, 9 times out of 10, the ground controller is going to say, "Welcome to Boston, say parking." And that's when they want you to tell them what gate you want to park at. So if you've gone and taken a second to go and look it up, you might go and that way you're going to have a gate number. So that'll be one of the things that I'll look at, is see if I can remind myself which gates are the Virgin Atlantic gates in Boston. And we're at top of climb, flight level 390. You can even see it says top of descent. So 541 miles to top of descent. That's enough for a lunch break. I am flying real world time, so that says that's going to happen at 18:59 Zulu. And you can see it is 17:52. So I've got about an hour to research some gates. I've also got time to go and make my in-flight lunch today. So you get time to keep doing your flight and walk away for about 500 miles or so. See, we can also look down here. And then one of the other things that I will like to look at here is I will also hit the fuel prediction page. Estimated fuel on board is supposed to be 10.0. We're supposed to be landing at 1941 Zulu. And then if you look over here, and this number right here at the bottom of the flight plan, FinRes plus Alton, I believe that stands for final reserve and alternate fuel. And so it adds those two numbers together. So all of your final reserve fuel, all the extra fuel you're supposed to have, plus 15 minutes, plus your alternate, I believe adds up to 9,510 kg. So we've got a little bit more than we need. I also board a little bit of extra fuel, a lot more extra fuel if I'm flying in a VATSIM event. So 500 miles to go before top of descent. I'm going to go and make a sandwich. You can go and make dinner or breakfast depending upon when you're flying. Be sure and look out the window. So right now the airplane's a little bit jittery, but looking out the window right now, we can see we're over a semi-metro area. We are over, coming into, this is the Greenville. So this is Greenville, North Carolina, coming up on Spartanburg. So Greenville and Spartanburg, this is in the northwest corner of South Carolina. And the clouds are looking pretty good. And at this altitude, I would say that that scenery looks really good. So for flight simming, you know, we're going to be able to fly some nice airplanes in XP12. And if we get some nice airports, I think that that's pretty good. So see you when we get to 100 miles from top of descent. Well, we're still flying. And the airplane's still a little bit on the jittery side too. But hey, still up in the air, and that is a good thing, right? Welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying your flight as well. We are pretty close to 100 miles from top of descent. Okay, 104 miles from top of descent. Well, we were pretty close on that. So it's time for us to start thinking about getting into Boston. Where are we right now? One of the best places to look at that is Sim Toolkit Pro. And here we are. So there's Philadelphia up there. So we're going to be coming in over New Jersey. There's Atlantic City over there. There is Kennedy Airport. So Kennedy is the beginning of the star. So pretty much we've got to go over this part of Pennsylvania and Jersey and be ready to go with the approach. Had a really great sandwich. Hope you had a nice cruise flight too. You know, one of the neat things to do, and you know, I'll often do this with the other simulator more often than the X-Plane, is I'll start up a flight and then I'll just go and set up a wing view and go and do a few other things, but it does make for a really nice screensaver, especially if you've got something more than just a bunch of clouds to look at too. So that's really kind of a nice thing to do. You know, better than having the TV and the news on and stuff like that, especially first thing in the morning. So come on down here. We are looking really good, 39,000 feet. Fuel on board, we've actually been gaining a little bit of fuel. You may remember before I hit the pause button, it was about 10.0. Estimated fuel on board now is 10.5. So we've actually been doing pretty good in the world of fuel. I'm going to guess that perhaps one of the reasons behind that is that 64 knot tailwind that we've had. Yeah, we've had a really nice tailwind going into Boston today. So my guess is we've also picked up a little bit of time as well. 1853 Zulu for top of descent. Pretty much that's been fairly consistent. But other than that, it's time to start pushing buttons for descent, and that first button that we're going to push is come on over here and let's look at DATIS. So there's several places that you can go and get real world weather. If you're flying in the United States, the DATIS website, link in the description, does have ATIS for a lot of big airports. Boston right now, information Oscar is current in the real world. ILS 22 left is our landing runway. The altimeter right now 2983, winds 160 at 8. So scattered clouds at 1,700, it's 23 degrees. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to go and get this and go Control C, and I'm going to put this in my flight notes. You probably might be recognizing these flight notes. So this is what I call the flight strip. It is a text file that I've been using for quite a long time now, and it's evolved a little bit. There is some data that you see there that's for other airplanes that I'm going to edit, cut and clip out of this, the one that I posted for you in the description. But you can go and highlight this from the description in YouTube, paste it into a notepad, and it will. It's something that you can change and use to your heart's content. We departed out of gate Echo 28, so the other thing that we're going to look at here is arrival gates. And like I said, I didn't have a chance to go and check and look because I was too busy making lunch, but I do think that Echo 10 is where I have seen Virgin Park before. So I'm going to put in E10 for my arrival gate. You might see over here on the flight strip. So I do have gate information here. That way, if we were on VATSIM, I would be able to just give the ground controller a gate number. Other things that I'll do, we're not going back to Atlanta, so we're going to get rid of the Atlanta charts, and a review of the Roebuck arrival says that we're going to come here and flight level 230 at Flex. So there we are at Kennedy, so we have a hard altitude at 230, and then a range of altitudes as we come in. We need to make sure that at Judy we're coming out via Cannes, Cradle, Kleb, and coming out at Tail. So quick little verification of your flight plan. And to look down here, so Brand, there's Lauren, there's JFK, there's Flex, there's Bank, there's Roebuck, there's Judy, there's Cran, there's Cradle, Kleb, taking us all the way out to Tali, I guess. So what that tells us is the correct transition has been loaded. So as soon as you get an arrival runway, always, especially at a big VATSIM event, make sure you understand your transition and that you're all set and ready to go. And then finally, 5,000 feet is our altitude at the end of the star. So at this point in the conversation, ATC might call up and say, Virgin 441, clear to descend via the Roebuck 3 arrival, Boston landing south. Okay. So we know to set up a south transition, which we have, because they may actually give you a runway number at that point in time too. But if we are cleared to descend via the Roebuck arrival, that means we get to put 5,000 feet in here. We're cleared to descend. So we're going to put in 5,000 feet. Now this airplane does not descend by itself like the 737 does. So we got to keep a close eye on top of descent, which is 54 miles out. So 54 miles to go. I hit a button and then it gave me a weather update. The other thing that we could probably do is we've already gone and I got the ATIS. You saw me cut and paste that. Boston ATIS information Oscar. 160 at 8, 2983, blah, 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 blah. So we're all ready to go. This weather information is current as of 1754 Zulu. We're flying real world time, so the current time on the airplane is 1846. So we're going to get another ATIS in about 15 minutes or so. So we need to be ready to go and check another ATIS. To get the current altimeter. So let's see, right now we are 45 miles out from our top of descent. We're supposed to start that at 1852. It's 1847. So if we wanted to make an announcement to the passengers, we'd say something like, hello from the flight deck. Had a nice smooth flight up from Atlanta. We are currently let's see, where is it? It's over on the other one. We are currently 284 miles to the south of Boston. We'll be starting our descent in the next 5 minutes or so. Probably have to turn the seatbelt sign on in about 10 to 15 minutes. So if anybody needs to make a last minute dash to the lavatory, now is the time to do that. Although we do like to ask you not to do it all at the same time, as that causes the airplane to tip in some pretty dramatic ways, and some people get upset about that. Weather in Boston is looking pretty good right now. We've got winds out of the south, at about 5-10 miles an hour, so it should be a fairly nice landing. The current temperature, so it's 23 degrees Celsius. We're in the U.S., so I've got a little decoder down here. Temperature in Boston's right around 72, 73 degrees. So real pleasant day at Boston. Certainly want to thank you for flying with us today, blah, blah, blah. So if you wonder where the pilots are getting all that information for the pre-descent announcement, well, they're getting it here. There's our distance from the airport. We know that we're about 5 minutes away from our descent, and we've also got our weather information too. So that was how it is that that's where the pilot's going to get the very latest information. And if you also notice here, a top of descent hockey stick has just appeared. So hockey stick is not the official term here. That is a term that I saw Captain Mike Ray, a former retired United Airlines pilot who has wrote a whole bunch of books about Boeings and Airbuses, called that the hockey stick. So I've kind of picked up on that and call this one the top of descent hockey stick is coming in. And you can see we're about, what, 25 miles out? Let's go over to the perf page. Okay, 24 miles out. But you can see we're getting pretty close. So we're almost time to press the button. And on this airplane, so what we're going to do is, remember, on this airplane, you push the knob in. So there's our knob. You see how I've got the hand here? So we've got a hand. What you do is you click and move the mouse so you push it in. That makes it managed. Pull it out makes it just open descent. And that way you could control it with vertical speed if you want to do it yourself. This airplane over in X-Plane 11 is great at this, so we'll just make it a managed descent. And we are going to do that in 18 miles. Again, we're going to go and get another ATIS in about 10 minutes or so. We'll let it we'll let the clock go to the top of the hour to 1900 Zulu, and then by that time everything should update and we'll get the latest weather information. My guess is that the real world pilots are getting weather information and stuff via the printer these days through the ACARS system and CPDLC system. So, you know, they're probably not listening to the ATIS broadcasts as much as they used to. And it probably makes the workload a little bit better too. Some airplanes, sim airplanes, have a printer where you can print stuff out. I think this airplane doesn't do anything like that quite yet, but I could be wrong. But that is actually something that's really cool, because you can go into your McDo and you can go into the ATSU AOC system, print up the ATIS, and it will actually stick it, you know, maybe right there or right down there. And that makes getting the current ATIS really, really nice. If you were on VATSIM, chances are you're flying on VPilot or XPilot. As you get closer to the airport, you'll notice in your list of frequencies on VPilot and XPilot that KBOS ATIS is going to start to show up. All you have to do is click on that one, maybe double click, but click or double click, and it's going to go and give you in the text message window the text of the ATIS, including is it information Alpha, Oscar, November, whichever. So when you do a call in to Boston approachers, you can say, you know, Virgin 441 is descending on the Roebuck 3 arrival, information Oscar is aboard, and that will make the controller's day. 1 mile to go. I'm going to go push the button, and that starts our descent. We should have, there is a little pink dot there that showed up, and that's going to be our deviation from the descent path. There, that's that there. I'm told some of them call that the donut. So that would be the donut, and what the goal is if this thing stays centered, then we are on our descent path. Let's see, some airplanes will put another little indicator off to the side here on the map, and that is a deviation guide to show you whether or not you are a little too high on your descent or a little too low. It looks as though, to me, as though this airplane just has this over here. So I can't tell whether, I don't see the deviation meter over there. But this is just as good. It lets us know that we are right on our descent path, and that's the good news. So we've started our descent. And let's go and have a quick look over here. We have just passed over Kennedy. Is there anything to see? Do we get to see New York City? Looks like we're getting to see clouds. Although, did you happen to notice over here, we've got several layers of clouds. So we've got a layer of clouds that's hardly moving and another layer of clouds that's moving. One of the things that they try to do is improve the weather engine with XP12. And I am seeing, whoops, there's a microphone there. I'm seeing really good cloud layers too. And by the way, the other really cool thing that I'm seeing is incredibly nice sunrises and sunsets in XP12. They did a really cool job with that. So now we are officially on the descent. This is usually when I'm going to hit the constraints button and maybe go out to 80 miles. And that way I'm going to be able to see some constraints. So we're supposed to be at flight level 230. So no altitude range here at FAX. I thought that was flex. It's FAX. So is that it? Yeah, it's FAX. So we're coming on here. There's news. There's FAX. And it's flight level 230. But we're right where we're supposed to be. So the airplane is happy with us. Current time is 18:54 Zulu. We could go over, and since there's no cost at this, we can go over here and let's see, do we have a latest weather? So the last one we got was at 17:54 Zulu. That's information Oscar. Let's hit the refresh button. It still says it's information Oscar, so it has not updated yet. If you're impatient, so what is that, 17:54, we could go to METAR TAF, and METAR TAF does KBOS. Boston Logan, is that the same one? And this one says this is 17:54 Zulu. So we have not gotten the latest weather information from Boston yet. So, you know, story of my life, patience. As if any of us are really good at that patience thing anyway. See, if we were on VATSIM, we would be tuning frequencies. If you happen to be listening to the controller telling other airplanes that are on their way into Boston, so we're talking to center, and maybe they're starting to send people over to approach. And you can start saying, I'm guessing that maybe my next frequency is going to be that approach control frequency. If you get a chance to go and dial that into your radio now, sooner rather than later, this is a massive time saver for you. If you can try, if you've got a few moments to sit back and go, I'm caught up. But if you, in the middle of saying, I'm caught up, if you are listening to ATC and you're hearing that people are going to 122.8 or 121, whatever, if you think that the airplanes ahead of you are going there and you take the time to dial that in now, I've generally found that 9 times out of 10, that is my next frequency, and that saves me time when I'm busy. Because there are times that I'm just busy as hell. And that's, of course, when the controller wants you to change frequencies. So radio management in VATSIM for a sim pilot, because most of us, we're all alone. We don't have a co-pilot to change the radios for us. That is a huge time saver. If you can, take your ESP pills, listen to what they're saying, and Sherlock Holmes out the deduce or Sherlock Holmes out the frequency, the next one. It really does make a difference in workload, particularly on approach. So as soon as I get kicked over to tower, one of the things that I'll be doing is the minute I see that I'm established on the ILS, the airplane's slowing down, flaps are coming out, and I might have 30 seconds, I'll look over at VPilot. Is there Boston ground on? Yeah, 121.9. And if I'm on tower, I'm going to dial that in right now because I have a second. Because when you're landed and you're getting off the runway because there's an airplane on a 3-mile final and they're saying get off the runway and all that, all you have to do is go and click the button and you're over on ground. So that kind of little strategy really does help you manage the radio a little bit better, and that takes a little bit of the stress out of VATSIM. So we're supposed to be at flight level 230. I've got 8 miles to go. We're at 24,800. So, okay, maybe we'll make 23,000 at FEX. I was about to say we were getting awfully close, but I had the map out pretty wide. It's 25,000 feet, so at 25,000 feet, this is usually when I'm going to go and do seatbelts. So right now they're on auto. Let's go back into the cabin and see. All right, seatbelts are off. Okay, seatbelts are off. Now we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to make them on. Let's go back into the cabin. And oh my gosh, would you look at that? Seatbelt signs on. That's one of the cool things in Flight Sim. The developers are starting to make the seatbelt sign work. And look at this. Here at FEX, flight level 230. I should have had faith in the airplane. Ah, ye of little faith, man. Let's go ahead and do another refresh on the Bostonitas. Yeah, oh, look at that. Information pop-up. Perfect. Still ILS runway 22 in the real world. That's good enough for me. I'm going to go ahead and Control-C that. I always just take this over and put it over on another monitor and minimize that. I try never to close those. And so now we're going to go here and we're going to replace this. I'm also going to take this opportunity. We're not going back to Atlanta. I'm going to get rid of the Atlanta METAR. I'm going to go ahead and put in some dashes here by gates for the Atlanta gate. If I had a climb and maintain and a departure frequency here on this line for my clearance, I would start cleaning those things off of my notes too, because that just makes it easier for me to find what I'm looking for if I have to refer to my notes. Okay, and at this point, look at this, enter destination data. It seemed to know we got the ATIS. So we're going to clear that, go to next phase, and on approach, altimeter 2981. 2981. Temperature in Boston is 24 degrees. So 24 degrees. Winds in Boston are 160 at 7. 160 at 07. Transition altitude in the United States, flight level 180. And the MDA or radar. So here in an Airbus, MDAs are so simple. Here in Boston, for a Category 1 ILS, it's 216 feet. So that's all we have to do is type in 216. Minimums are set. Go back to the performance page, and we are in such good shape. Now, over in the Boeing 737, the PMDG, the way they set those is you've got a knob, and you just sit there and crank the knob and crank the knob and crank the knob. Okay, well, sitting there cranking the knob and cranking the knob makes me a little bit cranky. Oops, I thought that was my drums. Whoops, I don't have my drum sound set up. This is my bad joke. Sorry. Man, that sucks. You tell a joke, you try and do your little drums, and they didn't work. Terrible. Anyway, I'm just using for the PMDG right now. If it says 200 feet, I use radar instead of a baro for minimums now. I don't know if that is 100% the correct thing to do. That's the way that I'm doing it. And it just is another little time saver in the sim cockpit. If I had the time to do stuff, I would do that, but I don't have the time. Quick look over here. There is an ECAM message that's just popped up. This pops up and down all the time. Outer tank transfer in process. So basically what that means is we've got all of the fuel tanks. So it's transferring fuel from the outer... Okay, so I was doing this. I was reaching out like this, like you could see that on this dorky little camera shot. So you got these big tanks way out there, and it's moving the fuel into the inner tanks for landing. So anyhow, I was looking at that and I said, oh crap, what did I do here? Nothing. The airplane's doing what it's supposed to do. So let's see, we passed New York. We're coming in over Connecticut and Rhode Island. and everything looks good. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put that over there and minimize that. Passing 22,000 feet, we're supposed to be below flight level 230 at Ruiz. Anyhow, we've met that one. We have to be above 17,000 feet at Allen, and Banky, it's above 16. So the airplane is right where we're supposed to be. It's kind of harder to see on this airplane, but our top of descent donut here, our descent path donut, is right in the middle. So we are right where we need to be in the friendly skies over Boston. There are some really, really nice payware sceneries over in X-Plane 11. There is the Mr. X freeware scenery that has been a staple at Boston for years and years. I don't know what Mr. X's plans are. There's some other really good Boston sceneries. I have not seen the Boston scenery yet in X-Plane 12. So can't wait to see what it is that we're going to have here in X-Plane 12. There's 20,000 feet. We'll reset the altimeters at 18. Nothing else appears to be a big problem. The runway that we're coming in on is runway 22 left. So 22 left is a big old long runway, 10,000 feet. My guess is we're going to probably make it down to the Papa, high speed, possibly the Kila. And then we're going to have to go back around this way. So I guess, how about auto brakes 3? How about auto brakes 4? One below max. So we'll do auto brakes 4 on this one. Nothing else really to worry about here, passing 19,000 feet. Another thing is, if you've got a few minutes, if you're especially on VATSIM, there are chances that you may have to go around. And so if you get a chance, missed approach, climb to 3,000 feet outbound on the Boston VOR 219 radial to Winnie and hold. So if we have to go missed, you go outbound on the 219 radial to Winnie. The cool part about this is the Airbus is going to load your missed approach in here. Watch this one. Don't make me a liar, Airbus. Ethan, Patrick, Tally, Manuel, Noli, Wayne, Focus, Boss. Oh, look at that. See? It's already got it in there. So in VATSIM, especially some big VATSIM events, you will experience a go-around at some point in time. So being ready to do that is a good thing to do. Another good thing to do is going to be practicing a hold, especially ahead of a big VATSIM event. You need to be ready to do that. Okay, the standard altimeter light is flashing at us. That's 2981. So in this case, we're going to come in here and you're going to push it. So you see the little hand, push it in and dial 2981. There we go. Now we'll come over to the other one and push it and 2981, and we'll come down here and push it and 2981. Altimeters are done. Okay, we have to be below flight level 190 and 260 knots. So we've got a slowdown coming up here at Roebuck. Now, right now, we appear to be fast, but we got 5 miles to slow it down. I wonder if it's going to tell us to throw out some speed brakes here. Yep, we're in managed, so let's see what happens. 260, we're stopped. There it goes. Now it's trying to slow us down. We got 2 miles to do that. 2.3, 2.2, 2.1, 2 miles. 1 mile. 1.5 miles. I think we're going to make it. Half a mile. We're at 280, so we're a little fast. We were a little fast, but we're slowing down, so we're good pilots. Now, there's another thing that, and this is a spy word. So if you look right here, see where it says 280 right here? You see the two little golden lines? That is what I call those the hash marks. I'm sure that's not an exact word, but that is your top speed for flap extension. Now, as you can see, we don't have the S for slats yet, but if you wanted to, you could start rolling out some flaps and slats if you needed to at this point. Passing 15,000 feet, speed's going still down to 260. It did not tell us to throw out speed brakes, but we could have done that. But I think we're in pretty good shape there. So above 11,000 feet at Perdvy, Judy. So we got another speed restriction at Cran, and we have to be below 12,000 feet. So speed's still coming down, and we're still descending. There's half a mile to Pruvy, then Judy. So 7 miles, another 10 miles. I think we're going to hit this constraint just fine. See over here, here's Winnie. So there is our missed approach and our hold if we need to go and hold. As we're coming in, I will also brief myself on ground, and we've already talked about it a little bit, but on your approach, while it's still going to be fresh in your memory, just take a look and see, okay, I've got a high-speed Papa. We're a big jet. I probably am not going to make Papa, but I bet I'm going to make Kila right here. And so Kila, we're going to go over here. We might possibly get to hold short of 4 left. Kila, probably Bravo around here to Lima, and then over to Virgin. Let's try to come up with a better way to say it. Over to Virgin Land. Usually I call different parts of the airport, okay, United Land, Delta Land, American Land. You know, that's... And I just, okay, we're going to Virgin Land now. The auto mod is going to just kill me on that one for sure. But I'm sure that that is what they were hoping for when they came up with the name for the airline. Especially for those of us who have the sense of humor of a 7-year-old. Okay, got another descent here below 12,000 at Cradle. We've got 250 knots till Kleb. You can see there is the runway starting to show up. There's 22 left. So if we look out the window, maybe you look back here, and I don't see the airport. As usual, it's clouds. Coming up on 11,000 feet though, so it's almost time to flip some more switches. So it looks like it's going to hold us at 11,000 at Cran and then continue down below 10,000 at Cradle. Our speed's just fine. It's got our speed to 250 knots, so that's pretty good. We got 1.6 miles, so we're going to hold this constraint for about a mile, I think. So you can see that pink thing right there. The pink thing's going to go away in less than a mile. So you even said it says altitude constraint. So there's our hold. And then once we pass Cran, the pink thing goes away and we continue on down. So close enough to 10,000 feet. So landing lights. I'm going to do nose light to taxi, and we'll do cabin call, 10,000 feet. Over on the Twitch live stream, there's some Twitch commands that people who are watching and commenting can use to tell the Twitch live streamer to hydrate and to do a posture check and stretch and stuff like that. I think that those are good things to remember to do in flight sim. We sit here for hours, on some of these long haul flights. So hydrate and then remember posture check. So make sure you're sitting pretty good in your chair. and make sure that you can reach your controls. Make sure that you can that you're all kind of forward facing your screen, and if you use rudder pedals, you know, you can put your feet on the rudder pedals easily too. Now's the time to do that. We're about ready to make some tight turns. We're going to be chatting away on radio. So at this point in the approach, that's when I like to say posture check and do those sorts of things. Everything else is looking really good here. So we'll continue the descent. We're at 250 knots. We're going to be below 10,000 feet at cradle. Then it's 8. And we'll hold on to that 8 for a little bit. Still 250 knots up to Ethan. Anything we can see outside the airplane? Sometimes you can see Boston outside here. Yeah, it's still underneath those clouds. X-Plane 11 really suffered from looking super duper gray all the time. When you're under the clouds, it does get kind of gray there, but they did lighten up the colors a little bit. So it's not quite as gray as it used to be, and that's nice. I do think that one of the best times to fly X-Plane right now is sunrise and sunset. The colors are particularly good. I think that maybe perhaps the clouds the cloud textures are gonna need a little work. They kind of get a little gritty on the horizon. You can do things like reshade and add some shadows and stuff like that. I generally don't like to do too much of that just because I've got enough going on. As far as airplanes right now, I think all I've got going here is the Flight Factor 757's been updated. I did a video on that last week. It's great to be back in the 757. And the Zibo mod has been updated, and now this airplane is ready to go. I think that FlyJSim is getting the Q400 ready to go. I don't know if it's happened yet, but if that's ready to go, I'll do Q-Flight here on YouTube as soon as that gets ready to go. Okay, 250 knots, 8,000 feet at Club. We're looking pretty good there. I think we're in really good shape. Kind of quiet here in the back of the airplane. Well, I did turn the sounds down a little bit. So here's more normal sound level for this airplane. Another thing that the real pilots are also going to do is they're going to have this chart up here. This is the ILS chart. And they're going to make sure that the airplane got the correct ILS. So the frequency, 1103, the inbound course, 215. And the ILS's four-letter identifier, which is ILQN. And so one of the things is I'll kind of keep this ready to go. And as we look down here and get closer and start to pick up the ILS, that it should show up here in the lower left-hand corner of the primary flight display, and it should show up in pink. And the pilots are going to be verifying to make sure that the airplane has correctly tuned in that. If it hasn't, you could go to the radio nav page, and if you take a look, the airplane should already have it is. Look at that, ILQN 1103 with an inbound course of 214 degrees. So that's, and it even shows you the slope of the descent too. So this one basically tells us that this thing's all ready to go. But the pilots are going to probably also want to verify that and make sure, they're going to look over here when it pops into this part of the screen. Okay, we are passing 7,900, 8,000 feet. We're going to go down to 5,000 and hold on to 250 knots. And it's almost time to start going into the clouds. Let's see, as of now, it is, we're getting into the month of September here in the US. So we're going to start having to keep an eye on total air temperature and static air temperature And when those temperatures go below 10 degrees and you go into clouds like this, got to remember to start turning anti-ice on. So anti-ice is always a big thing to remember to turn on. And to 57,000, we are in really pretty decent shape here. Seatbelts are on, landing lights are on, nose light is armed. Nothing really to turn on up here. So that's good news. Auto brakes are set. I don't think we're going to need speed brakes, so we're going to go ahead and arm the speed brakes. This is a really tame descent. Some descents you do have to descend a little bit faster, or ATC gives you a late descent and you need your speed brakes, but most of these seem to be designed with a jet in mind. So if everything is set up the way it should be, you shouldn't have to use speed brakes on these things. So that means we can arm the speed brakes and they are ready to go. By now we would be talking to approach control. Over in the EU or the UK, we would be talking to director. So right now we'd be talking to approach, and if I hear approach starting to kick people ahead of me over to tower, this is going to be the time when I'm going to go ahead and preset that tower frequency if I can. Because at the time that they're going to give you, they're going to say, turn left heading, I don't know. Turn left heading, what? 200 degrees. So turn left heading 200, descend to 4,000, maintain 4,000 until established, clear for the ILS, and contact tower. I mean, they're going to go bing, 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 and give you all of those things to do. So if you've preset your frequency, by playing what's the next frequency roulette that I do, or poker, or whatever you want to call it, that just gives you a little bit more of a fighting chance to get it all done. We should bring the map in a little bit, out over the water. No real big hills to go through here in the Boston area, but there are some tall buildings to the southwest of the airport. We are going to have another slowdown. That's what that little pink dot is right there, to 220 knots. So we're at 250. We got to slow down to 220 and then 210. There is a green dot over here, so that is the speed when we can start throwing flaps out based on the airplane's weight. And definitely in the clouds now. Temperature outside the airplane, 22 degrees. Not scared of ice at the moment. If you've heard in this airplane, but when you go back into the cabin of this airplane, I hear little rattle sounds like something's something's rattling around back there. Here, I'm going to turn up the sound, be quiet, and we'll go back. Listen. Okay, all I heard was a click that time. But it sounds like there's this rattling sound. Of course, it made a liar out of me. It always does. Okay, 5,000 feet, 220 knots. So we are right where we are supposed to be. And 220 is probably 210 is going to be our last speed. So we'll get ready to take control of airspeed as we come in. Anything interesting to see out that side? No. Definitely a little bit hazy. And here comes 220, right? See, the airplane is currently turned into, VOR1 is turned into the Boston VOR. We're 12 miles from Boston. And yeah, there's the Boston VOR right there, and it looks like about 12 miles. So there's our distance to the airport. As we go over, let's see, what is that? Patrick? Oh, Patrick. So Patrick, that's going to be, we'll see our speed drop to 220. And we're over that pink dot. That means, yep, there it goes. Right over that, and that dropped our speed. So it's going to reduce speed to 220. It should be an easy speed reduction now because we are level at 5,000. So really good. Here is our little green dot indicating that's flap extension speed. Or was that gear speed? Flap speed. Yeah, flap speed. Gear speed is placarded over here. So we could have done that up to 250 knots if we needed to. Close enough to that 220, I say slats. There goes leading edge slats. And then it's going to slow us down to 210 knots. This is the last checkpoint in the star. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to go and we're going to pull the heading bug. I'm also going to pull the speed and drop this to 210. Because chances are ATC is going to be telling us to do certain things here. And there's 210. We're below that next little hash mark. And at this point in time, ATC would probably tell us turn left heading 300 degrees. So 300 degrees. And reduce speed maybe to 180. So there's our turn. Maybe not. I think they get us a little closer in. Okay, I'm going to bring my map in a little closer, and they'll say turn left heading 270. Continue the turn left to 270 and join the runway 22 left localizer. Above 4,000 feet. Virgin 441. Speed 180 knots. Speed 180 knots. Now that we're doing this, let's also go down here to the FMS, the McDo, and hit approach mode. Make sure it's in approach mode now when you take control over your speed. All right, let's also go ahead and activate the LS system. And look at that. We got glide slope, we got localizer, ILQN 1103. We are 17 miles out, so we've verified everything. I say flaps 2. And here goes some flaps on the way out for landing. And as we come around, I'm going to go ahead and arm the approach. And there it goes, snagging the localizer. GS over here under altitude says that glide slope is armed. Now it's in a box with a star, and it's getting ready to start us on our descent. At this point in time, ATC might be telling us clear for the ILS runway 22 left, maintain 180 knots till Vocus, contact tower at Vocus on 119.1. Okay, so where's this Vocus thing here? Well, Vocus is on the approach, so you saw Wayne right there. Vocus is going to be about 5 to 7 miles out. And so there's Wayne, so there's Vocus. So 180 miles to Vocus, contact tower at Vocus. And so this is what we'll do here. Now, big bad airplane and stuff like that, I'm going to go and do landing gear now. Want to get everything set up just a little bit sooner. We got a lot more stuff to make sure happens. You notice the landing light is on too as it came out. So the nose light, landing lights are already on. Coming up on Wayne, 180 knots, everything's looking good. We're actually ready for another spot of flaps. I'm gonna go flaps 3. So we'll keep our speed up. At this point in the approach, I'm also coming over here. I know I'm established on the ILS. I'm getting this map ready to go so that I know I can see Papa, Kila, and my taxiways. I'm going to go ahead and turn on tracking, and that's going to help me keep track of where I am on the ground because we're super duper busy. If I'm on VATSIM, I'm looking to see is there a ground control frequency that's available. If there is, I'm going to set that in here and have it ready to go. Some airports, there's 2 ground control frequencies. At that point, you just got to flip a coin. Nice approach right now. I see a nice little golf course out there. Really, okay, it looks a little X-plane-y scenery-wise, but at this point in time, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. We've already done our posture check, so I'm going to gently put my feet on the rudder pedals, lean back in the chair, make sure I'm comfy, and I can grab all of my controls. We are coming up on Vocus. This is the intercept line here. This is when we actually intercept our glide path right here. I sometimes call that the squiggly. That's when your airplane is in the sky where you're supposed to. There's Vocus. Now, to do our speed, look down here, make sure you're in approach mode, and now go managed, push it in, manage speed. Slowing it down. We're below the little hash mark, flaps are full. Can't be ready to go soon enough with gear, flaps, and everything. Look down at the ECAM checklist, especially on an Airbus. It's your bestest buddy to make sure it's all done. Oh, they want a cabin check. All call. And cabin is checked. Cabin's ready. Everything's green. I'm set with my ground control frequency. At this point in time, I'll gently put my hand over on the side stick. Make sure that I can see the runway. If I can't see the runway, I don't turn off the autopilot. I also like to just kind of make sure, are we stable on the approach? Especially after a long haul. I don't want to have a problem. We're stable.
1,000.
AP is off. Captain's got the airplane. Okay, it wants you to actually clear the button over there. Otherwise, it'll just beep at you all the way down. Okay, a little low. Pull the nose up just a touch. Keep on the glide slope. Winds are from the left, blowing us off to the right. Gentle turn, a little low again. A little high now. Definitely high.
100 above. 300. Minimum.
Landing. Okay, now we're going down awfully fast. Now we're a little low, little high. It's the story of my life.
50, 40, 30, 20. Retard, retard. 10. 5.
Reverse. Engines are in reverse. Let's get over in the center of the runway. $80 knots. Reverser's off. Tap the brakes. Auto brakes off. And oh, wow, we're going to make Papa. Okay, because we're Virgin Atlantic, chances are they're going to have us go, since we made Papa, they're going to have us go north on Mike, I would guess. Speed brakes are done. Speed brakes down. Okay, there is taxiway Mike. So we're going to go north on Mike for a while. Because it's really congested over there. And if we're going to this far end, I would guess that they would want us to be in a non-congested area. Let's see, we can put the flaps up. Might add a little bit of power here. And I would guess that maybe they would have us go to Charlie or Foxtrot. Looking outside, it's not the Boston control tower, but it's a pretty decent representation of Boston. On the ground, I don't think we need terrain radar. We can also kick off predictive wind shear. Turning off all the things that could irradiate people on the ground. Okay, there's Charlie. We're going to go for Foxtrot next. And we're cleared across 4 left. There's the downtown Boston area, which actually looks pretty good. So cleared across the runway. I'm going to do strobes. I should have done landing lights a long time ago. And I'm going to guess that they're going to have us take Bravo, the outer. Because that's going to be a congested area in there. And let's do power to the APU system. As usual, I will wait for the flap to open. Might add just a little more power here. But we are doing 12 knots, 13, 14. And we're doing a 90-degree turn here. I'll bet the flap is open. APU is going on. Okay, now we're looking for Zulu. So coming up here, that's November. After that, it will be Alpha 1 and Zulu, and then Lima, to get to where I think Virgin is parking over here at the end of Terminal 1. If we look over here, we're right here. And I think it's going to be the Lima taxiway into this area for these really big gates down here at Echo. So we'll go for Echo 10. Starting to pick up speed. Yeah, that's okay. About 22 knots right now. Hardly feels like 22 knots, but we're actually cooking along pretty good. And keep in mind, a very big airliner. Okay, that's got to have been Zulu. Okay, there's an ILS hold line, so maybe that's Zulu. No, that's Lima. There we go. This is our turn. Yep, there's Lima. Bunch of ILS holds for runway 15. And then there's some big gates out there for the big Virgin Atlantics. So they would fly their old 747s in here. I think they've got 787s that they're flying these days. And I don't know if they're one of the airlines that's bringing the A340s out of retirement. Lufthansa is. There's Echo 10, and as usual, there's ground gear that's coming right at us, and just doesn't stop at all. I turned a little bit too late. So look over here. It's a big, long airplane. So I'm trying to get lined up here. No gate guidance, so I will come in and do my own guidance from outside the airplane. And there we go. Parking brakes. On. Look up here. Do I have APU? Yes. If I've got APU, engine 1 and 4, engine 2 and 3. I'm going to turn on the APU bleed. APU generator is on. Make sure you do the bleed instead of the generator. Let's go and do seatbelts. Passengers are impatient to get out of their seats. Beacon should go off. I should have done nose wheel there too. Disarm the emergency exit lights. Those are good. And seatbelts are now completely off. And then at this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I think those are what we turn off. Okay, we can come outside the airplane. And I have a button over here, so this should get us ground, and we can toggle a jetway. So that's going to go and get this one. It doesn't really handle dual jetways. And you can see this gate is set up for dual jetways for a big, long airplane like this. And then we can come over here. And, oh, look at this. It already opened the door. That's why I left the door on automatic. So the door is open. And if you look down here, it's got the cargo bays are opening up. And we have made it. Once again, skill and daring have overcome fear and anxiety, which was a line from Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. in one of the airport movies. Let's see. Giant green box. I might have missed one of these. Ground services. Nope, they're all on auto. Let's put chocks in place. Let's also go ahead and do ground power 1 and 2. And we'll come up here, do ground power A and B. We'll leave the APU on for some pneumatics, for air conditioning and ventilation. And our airplane made it. Nobody was hurt, nobody was arrested, so that's perfect. And there we go. I'm going to say this airplane's great. I think that the problem that I'm having with my controllers is just an alignment for all 4 levers, and that's just something that I've got to go and fix myself. Other than that, this is not a bad looking airport. Ooh, the control tower over at Boston looks pretty good. So it looks like they tried to do a little bit of making the Boston control tower look a little like the Boston control tower. So that's kind of a really good thing. As always, I said at the beginning, it's never about the right way versus the wrong way. This is just what works for me. My goal with these videos is to help people who aren't pros learn how to fly these incredibly complex jets that we are getting in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I do try to do it the right way. So if you are a expert and you say, oh no, you'd never do it like this, I'm still new here on YouTube, so I'm reading all the comments and questions, and if someone says, nope, fly the A40 this way, and they're an expert, I'm going to do what they say. So I am new here on YouTube. Leave your questions and comments, and I will look forward to seeing you. I'm usually doing a YouTube video about once a week on Mondays and sometimes on Thursdays. We're on Twitch every day Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. They're all fly-along flights, and certainly hope that you'll think about coming over and joining us there. If you really liked the video and want to say, hey, thanks, do some more, this is how I pay the bills now. So I want to say a big thank you to donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. And if that's not the way that you like to do those sorts of things, you can come on over to Twitch and be a subscriber, or just no matter what, come on over to Twitch and fly with us and have some fun. I hope that this is a video that was somewhat interesting and maybe helped you learn how to fly this amazing airplane too. I'll see you again here soon on YouTube and sooner on Twitch. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and cheers.